Welcome back to Election Countdown Nigeria. As the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, stopped the collection of permanent voters' cards, PVCs, on Sunday, February 5th, civil society organization Community Life Project has charged the electoral body to further extend the collection date in Lagos. It says that a large number of eligible voters whose names are in the voters' register turned up at INEC's offices to collect their PVCs with their registration slips, only to be sent away empty-handed by the INEC officials on the grounds that their PVCs were either not found or omitted. The Electoral Act clearly states in Section 16, subsection 1, that the Commission shall design, cause to be printed, and control the issuance of voters' cards to voters whose names appear in the register. Therefore, INEC owes all duly registered citizens who are in INEC's voters' register their PVCs so that they can vote. Here's what the civil society organization is saying. Now we have a graphics that would explain that. It says, PVC collection started on December 12, 2022. INEC issued a statement on January 24, 2023 that it had received its final batch of cards. However, INEC Lagos officials kept promising citizens that more cards would arrive. This was reinforced on January 31st, 2023, during a CSO engagement with an INEC Lagos official. Now let's talk about the further explanation on this. Absence of standard operating procedures, that's the SOPs for PVC collection. They talked about collection by proxy, underutilization of CSOs and volunteers. There was also penalizing voters for INEC's administrative lapses. And they say that INEC is depriving Lagosians of their right to participate in the electoral process. Do you share same thoughts or same sentiment? Tweet us at News Central TV to share with us what side of the divide you're on. Do you think INEC has been fair so far? Or do you think that they really are, in truth, disenfranchising Nigerians? Well, joining me this morning is Program Manager, Community Life Project, CLP, Reclaim Niger. That is Francis Onahor. Good morning, Francis, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Olive.
All right. So we've been having conversations about the extension of the voters' deadline and how INEC potentially needs to extend. Very recently in a conversation, Festus Okoye did mention that there wouldn't be any further extensions of the deadline as the officials need to be assigned to do other tasks. Let's talk about why it is important, maybe, for the extension. Why is it not maybe overflogging the situation, seeing as some people argue that Nigerians had enough time to register. They had the last 4 years, but there hasn't been enough anticipation on the part of some Nigerians, right? So let's talk about what your thoughts are on this matter.
Okay, thank you, Olive. I think that just from what you've read, collection of PVC started December 12th, but you realize that even here in Lagos, as of January 24, they were still expecting PVCs from Abuja. And I think the Lagos Rec actually said they got about 24,000 PVCs as of January 24. That's how many days to the deadline for PVC distribution. We call it PVC distribution. And then shortly on the 31st of January, they got an additional over 7,000 PVCs coming to Lagos. Whose fault is that? People showed up to collect their PVCs repeatedly, not once, not twice, not 3 times, up to sometimes 5 times. And they spent a lot of funds going to those centers to collect their PVCs. And INEC kept promising that their PVCs either not found, not available, and that they were escalating the issue. Even on that deadline, February 5th, on the deadline of February 5th, they were still promising voters that they were going to escalate their issues. So this is a problem of INEC's, this is a problem for INEC, not the voters, because they showed up to try to collect their PVCs. INEC's responsibility is to make sure the PVCs were made available to them, but INEC didn't do that. And that's why we are calling for an extension, even if it's for Lagos. Yesterday at the press conference, we were made to understand that over 100,000 of the newly printed PVCs were still not were not distributed. These are people who showed up. It's not as if people did not show up to collect their PVCs. They showed up. So how are we still having over 100,000 uncollected of these PVCs uncollected? They are with INEC. They need to give it to the people. That's the point that we are making. It's not that we are talking about the fact that people did not show up, or that people, like you said, had a longer time to. No, but they started distribution of PVCs December 12th, and people kept going. I received so many calls. Sometimes on a given day, we received over 150 calls asking, where should I go and collect my PVC? I've gone to collect my PVC. At a point, I started giving them hope. Look, INEC has said that not all the PVCs have arrived. Why don't you go the time they ask you to come? Go towards the end of the month. Go towards until that deadline of February 5th. I didn't know what to say to people anymore when they kept calling for their PVCs.
Right. And, this is in all fairness, I've also had complaints from Nigerians who talk about taking leave from work. Some people go there, they've gone there, they've taken leave just because of the PVC. They want to get the PVC. And then it's now an effort in futility because you take this leave, you go there the first day, you go there the second day, you're still not able to get your PVC. I'll come back to talk more about this, but I did have a guest once on Election Countdown Nigeria who said that he thinks that INEC probably should open up election PVC registration all through the year. So it's not saying that PVC registration and collection is between this time to the other time, that if it keeps running anytime, any day that people can walk into maybe the local government to register, that would be a better way to be able to manage situations like this. Do you think that would have been a better option for INEC?
I mean, it's supposed to be, that would have been an ideal scenario, because when you turn 18 years, you should be able to go get your PVC because now you are eligible to cast your vote. But we see this situation where they normally do this towards election period. Well, I think that there was one they did in 2018, in 2019, and then from 2021 to 2020. So you have like 2 years sometimes before the main election for people to register and collect their PVC. But the thing we are seeing in this circle is the fact that the PVCs were not printed on time. People who registered from January 2022, some of them have still not collected their PVCs. There was a situation where it looked like those who registered in February, April, and March, April, so many of them were not able, their PVCs were not found. So were they those ones that were omitted? Because those who registered even in August, sometime in July, they were able to collect their PVCs. So the issue is with perhaps how the PVCs were printed, or what made it, what was it that made some PVCs to be omitted or not found, as the case may be. So INEC needs to look into that situation, and they need to take responsibility. And like we've said, this is not the first time Lagos INEC will be taking responsibility for such kind of things. In 2014, the REC then took responsibility that this was INEC's fault, and they extended PVC collection in Lagos when they shut it down across the country. Right. And that's why we're asking for the same thing to happen here in Lagos. 100,000 is not a little figure.
No, it's not. There's so many layers to this conversation we want to have. In fact, there's some people that think that, or there have been speculations, a lot of this there might be an element to some political manipulation. And we'll talk about that when we come back from the break. This is still Election Countdown Nigeria. Stay with us. Welcome back to Election Countdown Nigeria. Our guest this morning is Program Manager, Community Life Project, Reclaim Nigeria. That is Francis Onahor. And we're looking at the possibility of an extension of PVC collection in Lagos. And if you're watching this, for those of you who are watching from Lagos, please let us know if you were able to get your PVC. Tweet us at News Central TV on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram. Drop a message with us and let us know if you have been able to get your PVC. But before we get more from this conversation, at a press conference yesterday, INEC IEC Olusegun Agbaji, I beg your pardon, said concerning the worries raised by the opposition party on the use of Lagos State Transportation Parks and Garage Management, that there wouldn't be any conflict of interest. Let's take a listen.
Of the law, Progressive Congress, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared winner and is returned elected. Thank you. At the end of the day, all states and FCT would have deployed except Bayelsa State, which is moving out of 84,004,084 registered voters. The total number of PVCs collected stands at 72,775,585, which represents.
All right, a lot was being said in that video. Unfortunately, we can't play everything, but part of what he did say is that all PVCs have been collected or something in that regard. I know that Festus Okoye recently had an interview where he was asked the number of PVCs that had been collected, and he couldn't give like a particular number, and he couldn't give a particular figure, and said that, you know, they're still collating data in that regard. I'm also wondering, let's take the conversation to another angle, and this was something that I was going to ask you before we went on the break, as to the speculations about political motivation or political undertones to the suppression of the collection of PVC. There have been people who feel that the refusal of INEC to give PVCs or the inability of INEC to give PVCs to certain Nigerians have a political undertone, and they might or may not be working in favor of certain political parties. Do you think that there's any iota or element of truth to that position? Okay,
so when we look at this whole issue of PVC distribution, perception comes in, especially when you look at the areas where people feel that there was a deliberate or intentional slowing down of giving of PVC. I can give you examples. For instance, in Oshodi, Solo, or Kota area, and that's area that's really notorious for thugs suppressing voters and all of that. You remember what happened in 2019 when they came and scattered the ballot papers after voting. My own polling unit was affected. After we finished voting, during counting, they destroyed our ballot papers. So you have a lot of things happening there. And we kept sending our staff to a particular school, Ajimoni Primary School, and we realized that the distribution of PVCs, it gets there very early, and then you realize that not up to 100 or 150 PVCs are distributed on a given day. So it looked like there was a deliberate attempt to keep slowing down the process so that the deadline will meet and then nobody will have PVC. And then if you go over to Etiosa, where you have a lot of non-indigenous people living also, even in Surulere and all of these areas. So what took place in these areas can lend whatever perception that people have that there is voter suppression going on. And this is not the first time. We've been working on elections since 2010 here in Lagos, and we've realized that sometimes there is a deliberate suppression of voters in Lagos. And that's the point we made yesterday during the press conference with Olusegun Agbaji, that there is always, in the history of Lagos, there is suppression of voters. And if you are at that press conference, you will also realize that our other colleague, Yemi from AIE, mentioned the fact that there was a given party who was going from house to house distributing PVC. The question we asked was, how did they get the PVC? And also, I've got calls of people who said they were asking them, who will you vote for? Oh, wow. And because of that, they told them their PVCs were not available. Okay. So I'm hoping that these are investigations that are being carried out, because it's very heartbreaking, to say the least, that people will be deliberately disenfranchised. And I mean, if you say that you have calls, or you have people who called you to say that people are calling them to ask what party they will vote for before giving them their PVCs, that's something that we hope that the INEC, the police and the federal government would really pay keen attention to. Let's take a look at an excerpt from the conference that was being referred to earlier.
Nigeria's 2023 general elections are quickly drawing nearer, and all stakeholders are putting finishing touches to their work. In a gathering of stakeholders in Lagos, southwest Nigeria, the State Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, gave a detailed statement of the journey so far.
Number of government areas, 20. Number of election areas or electoral rolls, 245. Number of election 13,325.
According to Lagos State INEC boss, permanent voter cards, PVCs, collected so far numbered 6,708,451 out of a total 7,637,402. This leaves an outstanding 928,951 PVCs not collected. This in turn means that 88% of the available PVCs have thus been collected in the state.
When I was in those days, we collected 73%, so we thought we did well. When I got to Osun, we could do only 71. You see, first we are in grade A, but here in Lagos State, we have been able to achieve 88% PVC collection.
The Resident Electoral Commissioner, REC, of Lagos also spoke on issues including bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS machines, training of ad hoc staff, early arrival of staff on election day, and particularly the movement of electoral materials, which has sparked up some controversy.
All I need, they must have good vehicles, which road safety will also certify as being good for the election, which can carry us there and carry us back. That is my own idea. So idea of either Oluoma or Oluoma, I don't know Oluoma, I'm not dealing with Oluoma. We are not, but parties are here today. If Alhaji Atiku can give us 1,000 vehicles, I will take. If Mr. Peter Obi will give me 1,000 vehicles, good vehicles that can work in Lagos State, I will take.
While the Lagos REC rounded off by saying INEC deserves a pat on the back as far as preparations are concerned, some stakeholders felt more could be done by the Commission.
The fact of the matter is that INEC has a responsibility to voters in Lagos and around the country, but we're at INEC Lagos to give them the opportunity to vote. There was a huge campaign to get people to register to vote. There was a campaign to get people to come and pick up their PVCs, and people showed up, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times. And INEC failed to give them their cards for a myriad of reasons. I mean, PVC collection started in December, for example. INEC was still getting cards as of first week in February. So that's not the responsibility of the voter, and they should not be penalized for it.
With just a few days to the general elections, the eyes of the world are turned towards Africa's most populous nation, as the result of this election will certainly have an impact on the rest of the continent. Bernard Akede, reporting for News Central.
There you have it, a report by Bernard Akede. Thank you very much. You were at this stakeholders meeting. So much was being said. They are saying that they're not working with MC Oluoma, although there had been speculations about them potentially working with MC Oluoma. He had asked that his garage team or his team be allowed to distribute election materials. I also stumbled on another interview by Festus Okoye where he had said that they're not directly working with them, but what they have is a memorandum of understanding, and that they will hire about 138,000 vehicles, they will hire at least 4,000 boats, because they've hired these in the past, but what they have is a memorandum of understanding. So it's a little dicey, trying to understand them saying that they're not working with MC Oluoma. Some people still don't believe them. I'm sure that you were there. If you can throw some light on the conversation even further.
Okay, let me start with the memorandum of understanding. When you have a memorandum of understanding with an organization, it means you are working with that organization. So they might say that they are working with individuals in that organization, but you have a memorandum of understanding with an organization. But I think that the issue here in Lagos is perhaps maybe because MC Oluoma is no longer with NURTW, because they have this memorandum of understanding with NURTW, and because NURTW have been banned in Lagos, I'm not sure it's still functioning in Lagos, so you have the Parks Management Committee in Lagos, and he's still the chairman of the Park Management Committee. He was the chairman of NURTW when they used them in 2015-2019 elections. So I think that because of the political consciousness that we have now, and maybe because he deliberately wrote that they should use them, maybe that's why this whole issue has come up. But beyond that, if you were there yesterday, people had suggested that it's because of the way they are presenting these issues, and because they are not giving people confidence that the materials are not going to be deliberately delayed getting to some locations. I think that's why all of these things are playing out, because right from time, if you have been following, they have been using this same set of people to deliver the materials to police stations. I just think that this election cycle is, we have really high political consciousness going on. So people are looking at the nitty-gritty, the details and the logistics issue. Yesterday, they have suggested that INEC going forward should engage logistic companies, should engage other people who can supply, who are not partisan, not those who are really partisan,
because
and they are showing that they are partisan.
Exactly, because
yes.
if you say that you're not working with an organization, you're working with an organization, not a person, and the person is very vocally a representative of a political party, does that not in some way smell of bias?
That's the way people are looking at it. In any case, all the people that you are going to engage, all the drivers, they own their allegiance to this same person that you are talking about, and everyone knows that this person is a member of a political party and has been campaigning and has been mobilizing for that political party. So I think that's why we have all of these things. But we have about less than how many days to the election. So I don't know how INEC is going to do that. But I think that INEC needs to communicate more. They need to give people confidence. Like Agbaji was saying yesterday, that they are going to follow the vehicles from CBN, where they get the sensitive materials, straight to the polling units, that there will not be any diversion on the way, and they are going to be monitoring the vehicles. These are the kind of confidence you need to be instilling in people. And we are also telling people, we have lines that people can call, can send messages to. Usually what we tell people on election days, note when materials arrive. Inform quickly when INEC has not showed up. Get to your polling units by 8 o'clock. Election starts by 8:30. By 8:30, INEC people should have set up everything. The presiding officer should have informed people of the procedure for voting, and that 8:30 accreditation and voting should have started. So if you get there by 8 o'clock, you are not seeing any sign of INEC people. Agbaje has said that by 7:45 or by 7:30, INEC people will already be at the police station. And he has even assured, even across the Riverina area, he has assured the traditional rulers there that INEC people will be at the police station by 7:45 latest. So people should be up and doing and reports. And we're going to be sharing these numbers and all of that. INEC will also have 3 lines in Lagos here where people can communicate to them to say, look, we have not seen your officials. And I think that's the thing that they need to keep putting out there. Get to your police station on time. Report if you don't see INEC officials by so time.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a role that the citizens have to play, which is why it's important that we're having this conversation. Do you think that also the fact that we are having the introduction of the Bimodal Voters Accreditation System, BVAS, has in some way boosted the confidence of people? We'll come back to talk about that, but let's go on this very quick break. This is still Election Countdown Nigeria. Stay with us. Welcome back to Election Countdown Nigeria on Breakfast Central. I'm Olive Emodi, and we have made it our responsibility to ensure that we inform you about the presidential aspirants, their logo, their mandate, and their parties. Now, the presidential aspirant for today is Omoyele Sowore, who is the African Action Congress, that is AAC presidential candidate. Their party logo, of course, is represented with 2 palms being raised in solidarity. Omoyele Sowore was born on the 16th of February 1971. He's a Nigerian human rights activist and pro-democracy campaigner and media tycoon. In August 2018, he founded the African Action Congress Party, AAC, and ran as its presidential candidate in the 2019 general election. Now, he's also running for the presidency in the 2023 election. Let's take a look at the manifesto. He focused his manifesto on 4 main pillars, which he claims will unify the broad and ambitious plans that he proposes to implement if elected. And they are: 1, to immediately treat Nigeria's chronic insecurity with the urgency, humility, seriousness, creativity, and energy required. 2, to establish a democratic developmental state of the working people which shall drive a green industrial revolution to modernize the economy and foster prosperity for the masses. 3, to institute radical reforms that will address social inequality, exclusion and vulnerabilities, wipe out poverty, redistribute wealth, and enhance equal opportunities. 4, to return power to the people at the grassroots by saying no to a handful of elites manipulating Nigerians every 4 years to determine which of them will have greater access to the wealth of our toil and our lands. And that's all you need to know about the AAC, its presidential candidate, their manifesto, and the party. And we want to remind you to get your PVCs, know your party and their logos, because it's very important on the day of the elections. The party logos is what you would use to recognize the parties that you're voting for. Remember that you have to vote within the lines. Any thumbprint that exceeds a line automatically invalidates that vote, and you don't want your vote not to count. Before we wrap up this conversation, I'd like to ask a final question. Talking about BVAS, that's of course the Bimodal Voters Accreditation System. Do you think that it's inspired enough confidence as to the peculiarity, the safety, and the smoothness of how the election will go this year. They've done the mock accreditation across 436 polling units, which was seemingly successful. Do you think that it's something that Nigerians should be excited about, should trust in, now that we're introducing this in this year's elections?
Absolutely. I think that the BVAS is a game changer for me, because my organization have been talking about electronic accreditation and voting right from time. But this time around, we have an electronic accreditation that ensures that you cannot exceed the number of people who carry out accreditation. And if you were there yesterday also, Agbaje had standard a note of warning to not only the political parties, but also with the INEC officials, that on no account should the number of people who vote that day be more than the number of people who carry out accreditation, because they will be prosecuted. That's what the Electoral Act says. So we are saying that BVAS is a game changer. If you are not able, there is no way anybody is going to cast their vote without getting accredited with the BVAS. If the BVAS is not able to accredit you, they simply ask you to leave the line.
Right.
And they write FA, failure to accredit beside your name in the voters register.
But that's another question. I mean, that's a conversation for another day.
Okay.
As to the fact that if the person is unable to be accredited,
yes,
and they are validly registered, what then happens? Because this was a struggle that Kenya also experienced in its
yes,
elections.
Yes.
You know, but that's a conversation for another
okay,
day. And in 5 seconds, yes or no, do you think that it would extend the collection of PVCs? Yes or no?
They have said that they will send messages to those whose PVCs are with them. So we are hoping that they send that SMS to the people. They might not extend, but they are going to send SMS to those people and probably ask them to come somewhere to get their PVC.
Okay, let's hope that that works and that more Nigerians are given the opportunity to participate in the elections. Thank you very much, Francis Onahor, for joining us.